Why manipulators always win? They're not always loud. They don't scream, threaten, or even look dangerous. Manipulators often smile. They compliment you, agree with you, even pretend to need you. But behind that charm lies a game won you don't even realize you're playing until it's too late. And by the time you feel something is off, they're already in control. But what if there was a way to flip the game before it starts? What if you could dismantle manipulation with silence, with unpredictability, with tactics so subtle they feel like instinct? Niccolo Machiavelli, the misunderstood master of strategy, left behind not just lessons on how to rule, but on how to survive psychological warfare in everyday life. In this video, you'll discover the counter-tactic manipulators never expect: calm dominance. Not aggression, not confrontation, but a surgical use of ambiguity, emotional scarcity, and selective attention. Once you understand this code, manipulation becomes impossible because you're no longer reacting. The hidden power of emotional detachment. Most people don't even realize they're being manipulated until they've already handed over their time, emotions, and power. Manipulators don't come with warning labels. They blend in, hiding behind kindness, support, or shared goals. They make you feel seen, needed, even special. But every word, every smile, every moment of attention is calculated. It's a seduction one that rewards your compliance and punishes your resistance. And because their tactics are subtle, you blame yourself. You think you're overreacting. You think you're the problem. And that's the genius of their method. They never fight you directly. They win by getting you to fight yourself. Over time, you start second-guessing your instincts. You feel drained without knowing why. You apologize more. You explain more. You give more until there's nothing left but resentment and confusion. This isn't just emotional manipulation, it's strategic warfare. And the only way to break it is to stop playing their game by their rules. That's where Machiavelli's wisdom begins to matter. Machiavelli's first rule: never be predictable. The first rule to neutralize a manipulator is to recognize their dependency on perception. Manipulators don't need real power, they just need you to believe they have it. That's why Machiavelli insisted that controlling appearances was more vital than controlling reality. When you respond emotionally to their provocations, you confirm their illusion of dominance. But when you remain calm, unreadable, and unbothered, you dismantle their power without confrontation. Second, Machiavelli taught that power flows toward those who act, not those who react. Manipulators bait you into reaction because it places you in a defensive position. The antidote? Silence. Strategic withdrawal. Instead of explaining yourself, ask questions. Instead of defending your behavior, observe theirs. This flips the psychological pressure back onto them and forces them to reveal their hand. Third, you must master what Machiavelli called the art of seeming. Manipulators rely on your predictability. They study your emotions, your needs, your patterns. When you begin acting with subtle unpredictability, delaying your responses, reversing your tone, showing detachment, they lose their script, and when they lose their script, they panic. Fourth, remove their rewards. Manipulators thrive on outcomes, whether it's your praise, attention, guilt, or cooperation. The moment you deny those payoffs, they begin to detach. Not because you confronted them, but because you starved them of fuel. And you didn't need to raise your voice or expose them. You simply changed the rules of the interaction. Finally, Machiavelli knew that those who control distance control power. Manipulators need proximity to influence you. When you set emotional boundaries, create psychological space, and limit your exposure to their tactics, you regain leverage. They can only pull strings if you're still on their stage. Step back and watch them shrink. Control without force. The inversion game. Machiavelli never advocated cruelty for its own sake. What he taught was clarity, that most people are ruled by emotions, appearances, and fear. And the one who sees this, without being consumed by it, holds the upper hand. To Machiavelli, the greatest power didn't lie in domination, but in strategic invisibility. When you're underestimated, you're untouchable. When you're silent, you're dangerous. He understood that manipulators succeed not because they are strong, but because others are naive. They exploit kindness, predictability, and emotional hunger. Machiavelli's genius was showing how to turn the tables, not by becoming cruel, but by becoming conscious. He believed in creating a persona strong enough to absorb attack and flexible enough to outlast it. In The Prince, he describes how a ruler must appear virtuous, even if he isn't always. Why? Because perception is the true throne. Manipulators craft their image to seem trustworthy or wounded, gaining your sympathy. But Machiavelli reminds us, people are moved more by fear of loss than by gratitude for gain. To break their illusion, you must see the game behind the smile. He also revealed that loyalty is rarely given freely. It is purchased through benefit or fear. In the modern world, this means people are loyal to what they think benefits them. Manipulators exploit this, positioning themselves as essential. The moment you prove you don't need them, their influence dissolves, and that independence becomes your silent counterattack. Lastly, Machiavelli believed in preemptive power, not violence, but vision, anticipating moves, preparing your responses, reading motives instead of reacting to actions. This isn't paranoia, it's strategy. And when you learn to act like a ruler over your own psychology, manipulators become powerless pawns. Not because they changed, but because you did. How to break their psychological leverage. What if the only reason manipulation works is because you keep reacting to it? Machiavelli understood that emotional reactions are the strings puppeteers pull. The moment you stop dancing to the chaos, you vanish from their control. And that sudden stillness? It drives manipulators mad. They don't fear your anger, they fear your indifference. Here's the twist. Manipulators thrive in environments where they feel in control of your mind. But when you detach, when you stop explaining yourself, stop overgiving, stop engaging, they panic. Your silence becomes a riddle they can't solve. And their obsession begins not when you care too much, but when you start caring strategically. The people who once toyed with your emotions will begin to question themselves. Why did they stop texting back? Did I go too far? Are they onto me? This spiral is your invisible revenge, not loud, not cruel, just deeply unsettling. It's the reversal of power not by confrontation, but by distance. And once you see it work, you'll never return to the old game. Machiavelli didn't just warn about manipulators, he handed you the antidote. Unpredictability. When you become unreadable, your moves untraceable, and your silence calculated, you destroy their script. Manipulators rely on your patterns to trap you. Break the pattern, and you break their grip. Suddenly, they're left chasing shadows. And the most powerful part? You don't even need to expose them. You let them expose themselves. The more they escalate, the clearer their tactics become to everyone around them. Your calm is louder than their chaos. And Machiavelli would say, let them unravel while you ascend. Because the one who remains composed always writes the final chapter. Let silence be your weapon of power. Manipulators operate on one simple principle: control the narrative, control the target. But when you withdraw emotionally, when your presence no longer feeds their ego, you force them into a crisis. Suddenly, they're no longer sure of their dominance, and that doubt is lethal. Machiavelli knew that power doesn't just vanish, it transfers. And in this silence, it transfers to you. People obsessed with control cannot tolerate uncertainty. So when your responses become delayed, detached, or unpredictable, they begin to spiral. They send longer texts. They over-explain. They try guilt, shame, flattery, anything to pull you back into orbit. But if you stay grounded, unmoved, a strange thing happens. Their obsession grows while your freedom expands. The psychological toll on the manipulator is silent but corrosive. They begin to project blaming you, questioning themselves, rewriting history to make sense of your restraint. But every projection they cast only reveals their weakness. You, by doing less, reveal more about them than they ever intended to show. And that exposure done without a single outburst is the most Machiavellian move of all. This reversal doesn't just change the relationship, it changes you. You begin to realize that control isn't about dominance, it's about direction. You're no longer the one spinning in their web. You're the one choosing when to step in, when to step back, and when to vanish. And that psychological clarity is what Machiavelli called power without noise. In the end, it's not about revenge, it's about release. You're not punishing anyone by caring less. You're freeing yourself. And when you do, the manipulator becomes what they fear most: irrelevant. You no longer need them to validate your worth. And in that absence, they finally see your value, but it's far too late. The one who walks away first wins. The art of outsmarting manipulators isn't about louder voices or stronger arguments. It's about letting go. Letting go of the need to be understood. Letting go of the need to be right. Letting go of the emotional leash they count on. Machiavelli didn't seek justice, he sought leverage. And your greatest leverage is your indifference. When you stop responding to provocation, you become unreadable. And in a world built on control, being unreadable is power. The manipulator now has nothing to latch onto. No guilt, no weakness, no fuel. You've become a mirror that reflects nothing, a puzzle with no solution. And that silence becomes your sharpest blade. So outsmart them, not by becoming cruel, but by becoming untouchable. Let them obsess over a version of you they can't predict, control, or manipulate. Because in the end, the one who wins isn't the loudest. It's the one who walks away first, without explanation, without regret, and without ever looking back.